Hey there, you know how when you're browsing the web, some sites just feel personal? Well, you're in the right spot. We're going to take a nice, calm look at a really foundational piece of that puzzle. It's called JavaServer pages, or JSP for short. So let's dive in.
So have you ever landed on a website and it just knows you? Maybe it says something like, "Welcome back, Sarah," or your shopping cart is just sitting there with all your stuff in it. It feels kind of like magic, right? But it's not. It's all about technology that allows a single web page to be dynamic, to change for every single person who visits. So how does that even happen?
Yeah, that so-called magic is all about making pages dynamic so they can adapt to you. But, back in the early days of the web, this was, well, it was a mess, a real tangle of code. It was a problem just waiting for a more elegant solution.
Okay, so to really get why JSP was such a game changer, we first have to understand the problem it was built to fix. And that problem is probably best described as code soup. See, before JSP came along, a really common way to make these dynamic pages was with a technology called Java servlets. Now, don't get me wrong, servlets are super powerful. They're basically Java programs that run on a web server. But here's the catch. Their job was to generate the entire HTML page, line by line, from inside the Java code itself.
And this is where things get messy. Just try to picture this. You're designing a beautiful web page, but every single HTML tag, every headline, every paragraph, every color, has to be written inside a Java command. This completely mixed a presentation code with a programming logic, creating this code soup that was incredibly hard to read and a total nightmare to maintain.
This really captures the light bulb moment. The old way, with servlets, was all about shoving your design inside your program. JSP just flips that completely on its head. It says, hey, let's start with the design, the HTML page, and just sprinkle in the Java code only where we need it to be dynamic. See the difference? So much cleaner, and that's the elegant idea.
And honestly, that simple flip, that one elegant idea, that's the heart and soul of what JSP is all about.
This quote just nails the philosophy. You start with what you know, a standard HTML document. It's a familiar space for any web designer. Then, you just add these special little tags, these JSP elements, right in the spots where you want the page to come alive. And the practical benefit of this was huge. All of a sudden, web designers could just do their thing. They could work on the HTML layout using their normal tools, and programmers could focus on writing the Java logic. The two worlds could finally work together peacefully in the same file. It was a massive deal for teamwork.
Okay, so what does one of these pages actually look like under the hood? Let's break down the basic anatomy.
At first glance, a JSP page looks almost exactly like a standard HTML page, and you'd be mostly right. The static part of the page, the skeleton that doesn't change, is called template text. It's that familiar foundation that any web designer can work with. But sprinkled into that normal-looking HTML, you have these special tags called JSP elements. You can think of them like little sticky notes for the web server. When the server sees one of these tags, it's a signal. It knows it has to do something dynamic, like run some code or fetch from data, before it sends the final page out to the user.
Here is a classic, super simple example. Everything you see is static HTML, except for that little piece inside the special tags. That's a JSP expression. It's basically telling the server, hey, right here at this exact spot, run this tiny bit of Java code and print out whatever it gives you. In this case, it just gets the current date and time from the server and plops it right onto the page. Simple, right?
So when your browser asks for a JSP page, it doesn't just get that file set back. There's a really crucial translation step that happens on the server, totally behind the scenes. So what's really going on? Okay, so here's the process. Your browser requests the page. That request hits the server, and a special program called a JSP container grabs that file. And here's the key step. It translates your nice, clean JSP page back into a Java servlet. Yep, underneath it all, JSP is really just a more convenient way to write one of those servlets. That new servlet is then compiled and run, and the final, pure HTML it generates is what actually gets sent back to your browser. And the cool part is, this translation only happens the very first time the page is requested. After that, the server just reruns the super fast compiled version.
Now, this ability to separate the design from the logic isn't just a convenience. It actually enables a very powerful and professional way to build applications.
The crucial idea here is what programmers call separation of concerns.
JSP is an amazing tool for this. It helps us keep the what it looks like, the presentation, completely separate from the what it does, the business logic. This was a revolutionary idea at the time, and it basically laid the groundwork for a lot of the modern web frameworks we use today.
This professional design pattern actually has a name. It's called Model View Controller, or MVC for short. It's really just a way of structuring an application to make it more organized, flexible, and way easier to maintain. And as you can see, it breaks an application down into 3 interconnected parts.
So first you have the model. This is the data and the business logic, the brains of the operation. You can think of simple Java components that just hold information, like a customer's name. Then you have the view. This one's easy. It's what the user sees, the user interface. And this is the perfect job for a JSP page. Finally, you have the controller. The controller is like the traffic cop. It's often a servlet that receives the user's request and then tells the model and the view what to do.
When you boil it all down, the takeaway is simple. MVC is a blueprint for organization. It gives you a specific place for your data, a specific place for your design, and a specific place for handling what the user does. That kind of clarity is what makes really complex applications manageable.
And that brings us to a final thought. We've seen how JSP and MVC are all about separating code into distinct roles. But this isn't just a technical trick. It's a strategy for collaboration. When tasks are cleanly separated, it allows different people with different skills to work on the same project much more effectively. It's a principle that applies just as much to building software as it does to pretty much anything else we create together.